Justin has something very interesting here. That's a third generation Toyota 4Runner, but it's not exactly stock. And so what we wanted to do today on Dude, I Love or Hate My Ride is do a walk around with this vehicle with Justin and find out what you've done with it and what you think of it. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Let's get started. First of all, the front end of the vehicle, that looks like an aftermarket bumper. Am I correct?
Yeah, so it's an ARB bull bar. Came on the truck when I got it. I also got a 10,000 pound Warren winch on there. Put it to use a couple times, works pretty well. Definitely taken some hard hits on that bumper too, and it's done its job. Interesting thing about the ARB bumpers is they're one of the only crash rated bumpers you can get for this. So they actually have like a buffer in there, like a rubber padding, so if you are in an accident, you're a little more well protected than some of the other smaller companies that make bumpers for them.
Yeah, you know, I actually had personal experience with one of these bumpers that wiped out my Nissan Pathfinder.
Really?
Almost exactly at the same height too, so brings back bad memories, but but it's good to know that works for you off-road.
The Toyota Tacoma is the best-selling midsize pickup truck in the United States. But what if you wanted to give it a little upgrade and make it safer and maybe a little bit cooler? In this video, I want to show you how to do exactly just that with a couple of LED light bulbs from Slovenia and just a few minutes of your time. I'm swapping the bulbs in the fog lights from halogen to LED. Okay, so let's see how it works. It's wider and you can see further, a little bit further. So let me show you from the outside. Here's another pretty good demonstration of the difference. The new LED Slovenia light bulbs. You can see this yellow light bulb, that's the factory fog light. So I would say it's a win-win. That just took a couple of minutes for a dummy like me. It's a big transformation for not a lot of money. You can upgrade also your headlamps and fog lamps and many other lights around your truck. Just check out Slovenia LED bulbs using the link in the description below and go have fun in your pickup truck.
Now, speaking of off-road, this vehicle is definitely not at its stock height.
Yeah, so it's on a 3.5 inch lift on the front, and a 4 inch in the rear. Up front, I have the Toyotech lift with the Total Chaos upper control arms, and then Bilstein 5100s in the rear. I've been playing around with the rear a little bit. I've had a couple different things back there. Haven't found anything that quite works well with the heavy load between the tent and other weight that is in there. It still sags a little bit, so that's something I'd eventually like to figure out, get it sitting a little bit higher in the rear.
So I heard that some of the earlier generations, first, second, third, and in some cases fourth, they did sag a little bit in the butt, but we're talking about pretty much an all custom suspension system. And if my eyes do not deceive me, that looks like a manual locker.
Yeah, so that's actually from the Tacomas of this generation. You couldn't get a manual locking hub on the 4Runners. So I don't know all the pieces that went into it, but the hub assembly and everything in there is actually replaced, all pulled from the Toyota Tacoma at the time. It's just a lot stronger and you're able to disengage. I've noticed a lot of improvements with my fuel economy and power on the highway too. Yeah, I noticed when it's locked up, my power on the highway is not near the same, just having to spin those front wheels, so it does make a big difference in that. So this has aftermarket lights on it from BX Builds. That was one of my complaints with it when I first got it, is the lights were not very bright on it, and these LED high beams do an amazing job lighting up. Their projector headlights do an amazing job lighting everything up, and it made a big difference when I'm driving at night.
Have you done anything with the powertrain?
Unfortunately not. So the one thing I do have is they call it the deck mod, where you cut a circle out of your air box and gets a little more airflow in there. Maybe gives you like 5 horsepower, and it revs a little bit better, but nothing real significant. And then it has cat back exhaust on it.
Oh, okay.
Again, hasn't given me much power, opens it up a little bit, but that's definitely probably my biggest complaint with the truck, is when you start adding all the weight with the off-road gear, it gets pretty underpowered with that 3.4.
Yeah, the 3.4, I think it made its debut in the third generation,
Yes.
your generation. And before that, it was a 3-liter. And
Yeah,
the 3-liter,
3-liter. Not
a lot of people liked it. It was some people said it wasn't very reliable. But from personal experience, I know the 3.4 is a really reliable mill. I mean, have you had any problems with it other than lack of power?
No, other than lack of power, I mean, it's been great. And when you get off-road, it really isn't an issue anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, it's in about 260,000 miles right now. No issues, and it seems confident that it's going to keep going, so.
Yeah, I've heard stories about how far these things can really go. So let's talk about a couple things as we walk around a little bit, and eventually we got to get to the interior because, guys, you're in for a treat. But let's talk about these tires and wheels because they're not stock either. Well, not exactly. Actually, those wheels do come from a 4Runner, just not this one.
Yeah, so they come from a newer generation 4Runner. I actually found them up here in Boulder, right near you guys. And the reason I got them is because I was eventually planning on doing the Tundra brake upgrade on this.
Ah, okay.
And the stock 16s don't clear that larger brake.
Of course.
So I bought them early on when I got these new tires, knowing that I would eventually do that brake upgrade, because you're able to clear them just barely with those 17s.
These are Mickey Thompson AT2s?
AT3s, I think.
AT3s. Oh, okay. The Bajas. They look really cool and really aggressive on this. What do you think of these, especially in like snowy conditions?
So I've been really happy with them off-road. I mean, they do great and they really grab up. Funny story with them, my 4-wheel drive broke and I was on a trail, Bunt School Pass. I know you guys go there sometimes.
Often.
And so I was doing one of their real hard lines up there. Halfway up, my 4-wheel drive broke, and it was these tires alone that got me out of there. They were grabbing up great on the rocks, and I was able to get out of there on 2-wheel drive. My one complaint, though, is in the snow, they don't do as well because they don't have that siping or anything like that.
Yeah, I noticed a really big block, so it looks like it's really good for grabbing off-road and not a whole lot in terms of siping. So we'll try to get you out of here before you have to drive all the way back to Colorado Springs in this weather. Let's talk. Well, first of all, you got this rooftop tent, and what looks like a really beefy roof rack as well.
Yeah. So I'm blanking on the name of the roof rack right now, but it's one of the most low-profile roof racks you can get. I mean, obviously, it only sits about 2-3 inches here off the roof.
Right.
My goal with that was to still be able to get it in a garage with the rooftop tent.
Gotcha.
And that's why I went with this Roof Nest Falcon 2. It's about 7 inches thick, which is about the lowest profile tent on the market right now. Then I also have an additional rack on top of the tent.
Yeah, I see that.
Where I'm going to eventually mount. I have some Max Tracks that'll go on top of there. But with the Max Tracks on there, it doesn't clear in the garage. So.
Now, what's interesting is, even though you talk about adding more stuff up there, you have a bunch of stuff in the back because you have a very interesting setup with your carrier. So let's have a look-see, because there's a lot.
Yeah, so right now it doesn't actually have everything even on there. Normally I have a fuel carrier right here.
Right.
And then I have a full-size spare with the matching wheel. And then if we open it up, in here I got my high lift, I got a shovel, and then I got an axe. And all that fits right there, right behind the wheel.
Does it make a lot of noise when you go down the road?
So that doesn't make a lot of noise. The roof rack does, though. Because with this roof rack, so the stock mounting points, you have 4 bolts that run around the side, and then they stop when you get to the sunroof. This is a limited, so it had the sunroof on it. And when you get to the sunroof, it's just set on there with adhesive pads. I had the choice of drilling into the roof or doing the adhesive pads. And I just didn't have it in me to drill into the roof. So I get a little rattle up there with the weight of the rooftop tent sitting on top of the rack.
Gotcha. Let's open up the back, and it's a preview for the cool stuff you did with the interior. But let's first talk about what you have for overlanding over here.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of just my random tools all right here that sit on the top that won't fit in my drawers. Then I also, so this doesn't have onboard air, so I have my air compressor right here.
Okay.
This is going to be my ladder for my tent. And then I got a water jug that I fill up when I go overlanding.
Now, you built this box, right?
Yeah, so my dad helped me build this box.
Sweet.
Took us a couple weeks. It's a lot harder than I expected, lining up all the little things to get these sliders in.
Would you mind if we open these up?
Yeah, absolutely. So on this side, I have my kitchen stuff. And they're rated at 180 pounds. So I have a board that I stick on top of here, and this becomes like my work area.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it holds a lot of weight. It can hold the whole kitchen setup with my stove and a cutting board and everything.
Okay.
And on the other side, I got like my first aid, fire extinguisher, kind of all the little random bits and pieces. I might need some blankets, various other things in here.
Very cool. Awesome. So you have all this set up for overlanding, and one of the things you wanted to do with this vehicle was go through the interior. Once again, it's a treat, and I wanted to show you guys, but before we do, I wanted you to quickly explain what's going on back here with the back of those seats, because it does look a little interesting.
Yeah, so you can see here I got this carpet kind of hanging down. What happened there is, so I went through and I replaced everything in the interior, which included replacing the carpet. But when I replaced the carpet, there's a little bead board that attaches to the back of seats that the carpet wraps around. I didn't realize that, and I'd thrown out the carpet before I put in the new carpet.
Oh, okay.
So when I went to put in that carpet, I didn't have that bead board anymore. So now I kind of have an exposed back seat until I come up with a good solution.
So you got to find a way to bond it and make it work.
Yeah, I've tried going to the junkyards, and unfortunately the carpet is pretty commonly stripped out of these 4Runners. So, and they've gotten so high dollar value, they're hard to find in the junkyards as it is.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. The further we go on with really expensive vehicles, off-roaders, people are beginning to realize that older 4Runners are the way to go. And they really are, if you think about it. Look at all the stuff you've done to yours. Now, I really want to show everybody what you did with the interior up front. So why don't we close this up and show everybody. It's pretty cool. I'm going to pop this open. I'll go over to the other side. But I wanted you to take our cameraman through some of the stuff you did.
Yeah, so I pretty much stripped this entire car down to nothing. It was down to the bare metal on the inside. And I started by laying sound deadening in the entire thing. So all the doors, the ceiling, floors, everything has sound deadening in it, which helps quiet it down on the road with the lift a little bit. Next, I went and did a thick pad with new carpeting, which again helps insulate the inside a little bit. And then every piece of plastic, vinyl came out of this and was all dyed with black dye. The third gen 4Runners actually only came in a blue and a silver interior, or a tan interior. And so I wanted something custom and unique, so I went with this black and red. I also reupholstered the whole headliner. I got WeatherTech floor mats in it, and then I did the upholstery of all the seats. So I have these custom bucket racing seats up front. And then in the rear, we reupholstered the rear seat, as well as the arm pads on every door panel. And then I also replaced all the seat belts on it. So there's a company that makes all the safety gear for cars, and you're able to pull out your old seat belts, and they'll take apart the assembly and put it with all new belts in there. So it's got black belts to match the rest of the interior.
This is really cool. I mean, the fact that you put so much time and thought into doing this and making the interior look like a new car, it really does say a lot. How many hours do you think you had to put into it to get it up to this point?
Oh, I mean, it could have been close to 100 hours. I did it over the course of about 3 months. It wasn't a primary car, so I was able to just sit in the driveway and slowly work on it as I had time.
Right.
And a lot of it took some custom adjusting. Just the carpet came in one big sheet, so I had to cut that out. And then like the bars for the seat, since this is the Limited, it has the rear AC and heating system. And because of that, there's an air conditioning unit that sits under the driver's seat. And so when I ordered these seats, they were designed for the 4Runner, but they were designed for the SR5 and not the Limited.
Got it. So they
so I had to go through and rebuild cut it up and shape it around the air conditioning unit to make the seat fit in there.
Yeah, but that's half the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun piecing together, and then there's a sense of pride when you get in it, knowing that you made it yours, and you know it's something unique that not everyone else has.
I noticed the steering wheel is still brown, probably from the old interior. In fact, I'm willing to bet the rest of the interior looked like that steering wheel before you updated it.
That steering wheel is a good representation of what this interior used to look like. It was pretty beat to crap when I bought it.
Right.
And that was a big motivator in wanting to make it look new, because, you know, they just don't make third gen things like the 3rd Gen 4Runner anymore, and I wanted something old that still had a bit of a modern feel to it. So the story with the steering wheel is it's actually really hard to find anyone that's willing to reupholster and take apart a steering wheel.
Right.
So especially dealing with the airbag.
Yeah.
So it's been tough to track down somebody that's willing to take on that project, and that's why I haven't done that yet, but definitely something I want to do at some point.
So somebody watching this video, if they were interested or had someone or a connection to reupholstering steering wheels, which is something I normally don't look for, but you never know. We have a lot of people out there who watch this. Perhaps if they can get in touch with you, that'd be great. So
yeah, anyone in Colorado Springs or nearby that has some connections, that would be awesome.
All right, well, far out. This is a really cool setup, and I know you off-road with it. We talked about that briefly, that you actually do take it off-road. It's a lot of fun to see these guys build up these things and then never take them off-road because they're too paranoid about their investment getting crunched, but you seem to be cool with doing that, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've grown up around it. My dad had a Jeep when I was growing up, still has it, and I go out with him. I've also grown up, my neighbors had Jeeps, so I've had people around me that I've been able to get out with and really beat on it and learn from growing up. So
that's great. Well, thank you so much for bringing this in. Final question I have to ask. Well, actually, it's 2 questions. First question is, what else do you have planned for it?
So the next big thing is the Tundra brake upgrade I've mentioned.
Right.
Got the parts sitting in my garage, so that'll probably happen the next week or 2.
Okay.
I don't think I'll ever run out of stuff to do on this. I think it'll be a never-ending build. I think my biggest dream is to do the TRD supercharger, solve the issue of it being underpowered.
Yeah.
So
and I did build them for that engine. I dreamed about it myself when I had one. So the final thing is, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. It's a question of, do you love or hate this ride? Obviously, I'm saying
I love it.
You love it.
And it'll be with me forever. It'll be a never-ending build, I'm sure. So
it's not for sale, guys. But nonetheless, some really cool ideas. Thanks for joining me. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. And guys, leave your comments below. We'll see you next time.